All right. All right, welcome to all the students. As you join, we're just going to take a couple minutes just to make sure that everybody has a chance to get logged in. So sit tight for just a couple minutes as people log in, and then we will get started in a minute. Alex, I see you're here again, so thanks for joining us again. So, all right. Okay, so well, as we wait, I'll just I hope everybody's summer is going well. And if you, in addition to the program today that we're going to do, if you do have any questions about anything to do with the fall, in terms of the transfer process, things of that sort, feel free to reach out to us at the Transfer Student Center. Our email is just lsatransfercenter@umich.edu. And we will be happy to answer any of your questions. And then hopefully we'll be running programming, some sort, or virtual programming in the fall to replace some of the programming that we typically do. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. I'm Michael Hartman. I am the Assistant Director of LSA Student Recruitment for Transfer Initiatives and Partnerships, and I also direct the operations of the Transfer Student Center in the LSA building. Thanks for joining for Transfer Transitions. This is a series of programs that we've been doing all summer to replace an in-person program that we typically do in the first, right before the semester starts every year for the incoming transfer students, just to introduce you to all the different programs that are available to you as an LSA student, with the goal of helping connect you to things early in your time at LSA, just because we know as transfer students, your time in LSA is a little bit shorter than students who come straight out of high school. So we want to make sure you find out about all these really cool things that LSA offers you. And so we try to introduce you to these even before you start, so that once the semester starts, you'll be able to connect with all these programs and sort of hit the ground running. With us today for the programs, we have the following programs. We have the Ginsberg Center, the Donia Human Rights Center, Optimize, Prison Creative Arts Project, and Intergroup Relations. And all of these programs are programs that can help you engage with your community and communities both within Michigan, around Ann Arbor, but many of them even worldwide. And some of them have specific programs where they tie into specific communities. Others allow you to define your projects and things of that sort. They're all super transfer friendly programs and are great ways to meet other people, to sort of get involved in a community right away when you're here on campus. So hopefully after learning more about them today, you'll take advantage of some of these in the fall. So as the presenters present, you are able to ask questions, and so you can do that in one of two ways. You can either type a question into the Q&A box, and using the icon that is at the bottom of your screen, and that will, and then I can read out those questions to the participants or to the presenters, or they can see them themselves and maybe answer them. Or if you would like to pose your question out loud, you can raise your hand to be identified, and then I can turn on your microphone and you can ask it out loud. So either way works for us. It doesn't really matter how you want to ask your questions. And then, questions of any sort are up for fair game. So hopefully you have a lot of questions about these great programs. Now, so we're ready to get started. So we're gonna start with the Donia Human Rights Center with Brenna. So Brenna, you wanna take it away?
Sorry about that. So I'm just gonna share my screen. 1 second here. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So hi, I'm Brenna Warner, and I am the program coordinator for the Donia Human Rights Center. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the Human Rights Center and then some of the opportunities that are really unique and would be great for incoming transfer undergraduate students. So in general, the Human Rights Center is a forum for intellectual exchange on issues around human rights among scholars, practitioners, students, and the broader public. We aim to promote deeper understanding of human rights issues in our contemporary world, and to really equip our constituents with the tools to tackle challenging human rights problems around the world. So toward that end, we invite leading practitioners and scholars to share their insight and expertise on human rights gained through their experiences and research. We sponsor various public events featuring prominent human rights speakers who are scholars in the field and work on research. And then we also support educational activities such as exchange programs and curricular development. I also just want to mention that we are part of the International Institute. So a lot of what we work on is international human rights issues, but we do also touch on the domestic issues as well. I put our website up there and our contact information. So if you come up with any other questions today, feel free to email us at umishhumanrights@umich.edu. So some of the opportunities that I specifically wanted to call your attention to is the speaker series that we have. So as I mentioned, we bring in some really great prominent people to come and talk about their specialty in the field of human rights. So some of the past speakers that we've had include Zaid Al-Hussein, who was the former United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. He talked about global challenges to human rights today. Catherine McKinnon, who's a professor at the University of Michigan Law School and the Harvard Law School. He spoke about sexual harassment, the law, the politics, and the movement. Sherry Fink, who's a winner of the Pulitzer Prize, an author and correspondent at the New York Times. She talked about human rights and medical care in times of emergency. And we also hosted Dr. Denis Mukwege, who's a renowned human rights advocate for women in the Democratic Republic of Congo and actually just won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. So I just want to call this to your attention because we host these events throughout the year, and for our undergraduate students, we also offer the opportunity for students to sign up for exclusive luncheons to actually meet and greet with some of these really prominent figures, which is great for networking. We also, as I mentioned, host an annual Donia Human Rights Center Martin Luther King Jr. lecture to kind of focus on the more domestic human rights issues that are going on. Some of our past topics have included white rage, the unspoken truth of our nation's divide, locking up our own, crime and punishment in Black America. So we are focusing on those domestic human rights issues as well as we are able to. Some updates that I just wanted to let you know is we just recently installed a new director, Stephen Ratner, who's a professor in the University of Michigan Law School. And he really wants the Donia Human Rights Center to be a hub for human rights resources throughout the campus. So one of the initiatives that he's working on is to compile a list of all the undergraduate and graduate human rights related courses. So if you're interested in working on coursework that has to do with human rights, you can go to our website and find all that in one place. So it's easier to access, and also making our website a hub for resources of organizations around campus and also external human rights organizations. So if you're looking to pursue a career that way, that those are just available to you. So that's something that will be coming soon. Look forward to that. But definitely feel free to spend some time exploring our website in the coming months. The other thing that's really a really great opportunity for our undergraduate students are the fellowship and funding opportunities that we have, which we have some really unique opportunities available to students. So they're all listed here, but the International Human Rights Fellowship helps to place a student in an internship at Perseus Strategies, which is a law firm in Washington, D.C., and specifically students work on international human rights issues. Human Rights First is a NGO also in Washington, D.C., where students work on research and internships with them. The Human Trafficking or Social Justice Law Clinic Fellowship is a placement actually with the university in Brazil to work on human trafficking issues or focus on more of the social justice, working with an internship within the community. We just added the Fair Labor Association Fellowship, which is we have a student working on actually human rights issues in food supply chain management. And we also offer the Korea Michigan Human Rights Research Fellowship, where students actually go and take a course in South Korea, and they do an independent research project while they're there. These are all kind of unique opportunities, but really focused on human rights issues. And by providing the funding and helping place students in these opportunities, we're able to really help set them up, for networking opportunities for the future, but also provide them funding because, as you know, a lot of internship opportunities can be unpaid. So those are something to look forward to. And then finally, I just wanted to say, subscribe to our newsletter. We have a button on our homepage, so you can get all the information about all these events and also fellowship and funding opportunities as the year goes on. So feel free to explore that more on our website. And again, feel free to reach out with any questions to our email. Thanks so much.
All right, so anybody have any questions for Brenna? Alex doesn't have a question, but he just says, that's incredible. So, so are the fellowship, I do have a question. Are the fellowships, are they all placements for during the summer?
Yeah, so all the ones I specifically mentioned are all summer placements. So this summer was obviously a little different given everything that was going on with the pandemic. There were a couple that we had to cancel, but there actually were many of them that we were able to move into a remote setting. So obviously we'll have to see where we're at next summer, but we did have remote opportunities as a possibility this summer.
All right, and so, and then the question is, next question is, when are the fellowship applications meant to be filled in for transfer? So when are the application deadlines for those fellowships?
Yeah, so they're all a little different. Usually the applications are due sometime around February and March, but we usually start advertising and posting the positions around the end of November and December. So if you sign up for our newsletter, that would be a good way to know when those applications are available. And we'll also have that updated on our website. So we don't have the firm dates yet, but usually it's mid-February, mid-March, depending on which opportunity it is that those would be due.
And then how competitive is the application for the fellowships? Like how many spots in each fellowship and how many people tend to apply and things of that sort?
Yeah, I mean, most of these placements are really for 1 or 2 students. So I will say that they are somewhat competitive. But if you are interested in any of the opportunities specifically, you can always reach out to us again at that UMich Human Rights email address. I'm happy to speak with any students who are particularly interested in the opportunities and walk them through a little bit about the process and maybe more specifically what we're looking for that you might not just get from reading on the website.
Great. Okay, great. All right, any other questions for Brenna? No students?
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Brenna, take care. All righty, so next up is if my order is remembered correctly, is the Ginsberg Center. Brendan?
Share my screen here. So if you're seeing correctly, so I'm just taking you to Ginsberg's homepage, which I think is helpful because there's a couple things that we can explore. So hi everybody, my name is Brendan Gallagher. I work at the Ginsberg Center as our student outreach and engagement manager, and so I work primarily with our student focusing team, but the Edward Ginsberg Center is the Center for Community Service and Learning on campus. And so really at the core of our work is essentially how are we connecting university resources to the needs and priorities of the community, or both our local and global communities. And so we do that in a lot of different ways. As you can see across the top here, we have a lot of different resources and teams working with our student-facing team, with a community-facing team, and then our faculty and staff-facing team. So really trying to look at how are we being good stewards of and working towards the needs and priorities that the community is telling us. And so for the sake of this conversation, we will be focusing on the student opportunities that you have available to you now that you are a part of our community. So first and foremost, welcome to campus, welcome to being a Wolverine. There's a lot of great opportunities for you across campus, but in terms of the work that we're doing here at the Ginsberg Center, really what you can look for is if you go to our website and in the student and click on for students, there are a whole host of undergraduate opportunities that you have available to you. And so we know that through whatever course of study that you are taking and pairing that with personal passions that you have for different social issues, that there are ways in which you can channel those into how you are addressing community identified needs. And so the opportunities that we have available through Ginsberg is our leadership opportunities, service opportunities. We have a lot of different fellowship programs as well, but really starting here at the top as an undergrad, a couple of different fellowship opportunities that are available for either single year fellowships or multi-year fellowships. So a community leader fellows is actually geared towards more of an underclassman, just because that is a multi-year leadership program and fellowship program where you can actually choose based off of what it is that you're passionate about, whatever issues that they are that you're passionate about, funneling that into working directly with some of Ginsberg's community partners in particular areas. And so we've had fellows in the past that have been interested in environmental policy work or in food access work, and they're studying that in their courses, and they're tailoring this particular fellowship towards that particular issue and being able to essentially like bring that education to life through a hands-on community-based fellows program. The McDonald's Fellow program is similar to the Community Leaders Fellow. However, it's not a multi-year. It's meant to be more of a kind of immersive single-year fellowship process. But again, kind of the same thing where you can actually tailor it to what it is that you're passionate and interested in. And then there's a connection to community partners aspect of that. And so both of those leadership fellowship cohorts, there are scholarships that are associated with that. And so there is financial support in being a part of those fellowship programs, as you can see with the McDonald's Fellows right here, that there's a $5,000 annual scholarship that that is associated with that opportunity. And so again, kind of realizing that, you know, oftentimes these additional opportunities to do things outside of the classroom aren't always compensated. And so that's something that we take very seriously and want to make sure that there's funding associated with that. Other things that are happening at the Ginsberg Center, there's a lot of, so I work on our student facing team, and we're working primarily with student organizations and individual students across campus that are engaging in community work in all of the different ways that you can be doing that. And so some of those ways are what's listed here. So we actually house within Ginsberg Center 2 of what we call our student-sponsored organizations. One is Detroit Partnership, which you'll see here. It's a student-run organization that essentially hosts weekly service opportunities in and around the Detroit area. And so their organization is sponsored by Ginsberg Center, and so their student leadership team and the work that they're all doing is housed within the Ginsberg Center specifically. And then down here, our Alternative Spring Break group, which is run as a student group. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with Alternative Spring Break, this is a group of a student organization that essentially creates week-long immersive service projects in communities all across the country during the course of our academic year spring break. And so that's a pretty significant group, and there's, you know, close to 25 different trips going each spring break. Now, granted, in our current times with COVID and kind of this health-informed semesters coming up, there are still conversations about what this year is going to look like. But for the future years of your time here at U of M, MAC ASB is definitely something that is a student favorite and something to be involved with. We also house most of the democratic engagement initiatives that are happening in our student life across campus. So Ginsberg is home to the Big Ten Voting Challenge. And so U of M works with the other 13 Big Ten colleges to do voter engagement work across campus. And so anything related to our voter engagement initiatives is housed out of Ginsberg Center, and there are student teams that actually work to run voter engagement related work across campus. And so there are opportunities from a student standpoint to be a part of working teams to be doing that work across campus. In addition to that, we have a lot of different things around our literacy initiatives. And so this is another big thing that a lot of students are getting involved with. Two of the biggest programs in our literacy initiatives is what we call America Reads and Readers Invest. So America Reads is actually an AmeriCorps program that is housed within the Ginsberg Center and which employs 100+ undergraduate students to actually serve as tutors in Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor public schools. And so if that is something we're interested in, there, like I said, we have just over 100 tutors that that there is training involved. They are paid positions where you would actually work as a tutor in a weekly role in a designated classroom in one of the school districts that we partner with. And then Readers Invest is kind of a like family reading nights where we actually host different opportunities to read children's books to different families in different classrooms. And so that's more of a volunteer program. But again, we have thousands of volunteers that come through that program each year to be doing literacy related outreach to our local school districts in Washtenaw County. And so in addition to that, we do have some opportunities for funded roles. And so are for student staff roles. We have building managers. So let me see if I can bring it up. We're actually located in an old house. This right here, this house, if you can see that in the picture, see if I can bring it up. We're located in this older house. And so this is the Ginsberg Center here. We have student staff that help run that center for us, front desk workers. We have students that are working on different teams. There are students that are working on the team that I oversee. And so there are plenty of different student paid positions to be involved with in the Ginsberg Center as part of our extended team. And within that, opportunities to be on some of those different teams, as I mentioned, democratic engagement, some of our fellowship programs. We do a lot with our community partners and working actually out in the community. And so we have a lot of different paid student positions and student staff positions. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, which is a big, one of the bigger resources for students, is we have what is called our Connect Community portal. And so for those of you who are passionate about direct service and volunteerism and want to continue that work here at U of M, and if you're moving into the area, if you're not already, Connected Community is essentially a portal that is populated with volunteer opportunities within Washtenaw County and the greater Michigan area. And so Connected Community is really the kind of catch-all opportunities for service-related activities, if that is something that you are interested in. And so we are constantly in communication with our 500+ community nonprofit organization partners. And within that portal, they are constantly updating the needs that they have for volunteers in the area. And so you can actually go to Connect Community, create a volunteer profile and have that be, and within that profile, be able to select the issue areas that you are passionate about and find volunteer opportunities that align with what it is that your passions and interests are. And so that Connected Community portal is housed within Ginsberg and something that we oversee, and it's a big part of creating a sense of service and activism and civic engagement across campus. And so those are the main opportunities that we have for you all to get involved with, and there are plenty of kind of doors that open with other opportunities once you've connected with us, but want to leave that there and leave time for any questions that may have come up.
So we did have a question. So one of the students looked up to see that the applications for the McDonald Fellows was due July 14th of this year.
Yes.
And the question is, would there be an extension for transfer students, given that many of our transfer students are coming in the junior year and are just getting on campus now?
So that's a good question. So I don't oversee the McDonald's, the fellow programs. However, what I do know about it is that typically what happens, that July date that you are seeing, that is kind of the initial date for current students who are kind of in that process. But then once once the initial wave of placements in that fellowship program happens, then it becomes more of a rolling basis. And so it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to start at a certain time. And so the deadline that you're seeing is just for that first wave. And then, like I said, there'll be kind of rolling opportunities for join that fellowship program. We've really designed that in a way that can be customized to kind of where you're at in your timing. And so, yes, that's something that will be available. It's just you're seeing the initial cutoff date.
Okay, and so could incoming transfer students go ahead and apply now, given, I mean, they have, you know, they're already enrolled in their classes because they've gone through orientation just to sort of get the ball.
Absolutely. What I would encourage anybody who's interested in doing it, if you email ginsberg.students, so ginsberg.students@umich.edu, with interest in either of those fellowship programs, and just make sure that you kind of explain in there that you're a transfer student, where you're kind of at with things. Send us an email. Talk with us, and we'd be more than happy to figure out what those next steps forward would look like for you, for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions for students? All right, thank you, Brendan.
Absolutely.
All right, so next up we have the Intergroup Relations with Scott. You ready, Scott?
Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Wang. I'm one of the associate directors at Intergroup Relations. Let me share my screen real quick. I have a few slides. Okay, so you may be asking, what is Intergroup Relations? We are a social justice education program, and we use a concept called intergroup dialogue, which basically gets different groups of people together to have really difficult conversations, to build empathy and understanding, but also to build action steps to help create a more socially just world. So we use this thing called intergroup dialogue, and we have this concept thinking dialogue is a superpower, and you could use these things to interrupt dominant narratives, you could raise critical consciousness, and you can collaborate across difference. So if you are interested in social justice, this is the program for you. If you want to be a social worker, we have preferred admission, and we partner with the CASC minor, where intergroup dialogue courses count towards your CASC minor. We also have preferred admission into the Masters of Higher Education program. So if those are some things that you're interested in, you should definitely check us out. So we are a minor and a co-curricular program. These are some of the courses that you could take throughout a semester. ALA 122 is our intergroup dialogue, which range from various topics such as socioeconomic status, race, justice, religion, sexual orientation. We have all types of topics, and these are actually peer facilitated. And if you're interested in becoming a peer facilitator, you take the ALA 320 course, and then you take the ALA 321 course, and you actually get credit plus some monetary compensation. So if you're interested in student facilitation, those are some curricular ways to do it. And we have this thing called Common Ground, which is a non-credit-based, student-based dialogue opportunity facilitation. So you could work with various groups and student groups across campus and do different workshops, and that is a paid position as well. So if you're interested in any of those types of courses, if you're interested in the minor, if anything piqued you in regards to the different categories of social work, we also count towards psychology courses as well as sociology courses as well. So igr.info@umich.edu if you have any questions. You could also check out our website, igr.umich.edu. And a lot of our courses are actually filled for the fall, but we're offering another course called ALA 324, Facilitation for Effective Leadership. So this is a course that prepares students to be facilitative leaders on campus and in community organizations. And so if this is something you're interested in, it's taught by Liz Cole, who served as our interim dean last year in LSA. So it's a unique opportunity to get to work with a really acclaimed faculty member. So these are just some of the opportunities that we have for intergroup dialogue and intergroup relations. I talked about that really quickly, but do we have any questions about IGR? And let me stop sharing.
Okay, so I have a question based on my experience in working with students through the years and talking to them about IGR. So in the first class, the ALA 122, 121.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you went over sort of the different identities and topics that are covered, but what actually happens in that class?
Yeah,
Are sitting there together.
Right, so it's a semester-long course. You have two different groups. So we'll use race and ethnicity as an example. So we have a race and ethnicity dialogue. It's made up about 16 students. 8 students are students of color. Eight students are from the privileged group or white students. And you go through these different activities and these dialogues, and it's facilitated by peer facilitators who are trained, one of them being a student of color, one of them being a white student. And you really engage and have these difficult conversations and try to understand where these things are coming from. Where am I getting these ideas of power and privilege? Where am I getting these ideas of this is how I feel oppressed as a person and this is how I don't feel oppressed? And you hear these firsthand stories and these firsthand experiences from your peers, and you move through this journey, through these 4 stages, in hopes that at the end, you really understand. And the goal is not to have you switch sides or have you be, yeah, I agree with you. It's really to humanize and understand where other people are coming from and why they have those perspectives and how those have been built and how those are socially constructed. So we take a little bit of psychology, we take a little bit of sociology, and we've created this curriculum to kind of help you dive into these things. So at the end of that 122, you have these friends, you have these people that you've gone through this journey with. And so then you can kind of challenge these ideas of how society is shaped, right? And so we think about, why is there huge injustices right now with police brutality and all the George Floyd killings and Black Lives Matter? What are the things and the social constructs that have created us to this time where this is really important? Because people are hurting, people are dying, people are disadvantaged, and that's kind of a messed up system, right? So let's figure out how me as an individual fits into that story, into this narrative, and how can I make a difference in those injustices?
Thanks. Yeah. So there's a question, are the 100, 200, 300 level courses sequential or separate? And are these gender-based, sexuality-based discussions in addition to race, or are there?
Yeah, so the only prerequisite really is if you're going to be a facilitator, you're gonna take ALA 320 and then you'll then take ALA 321. There's no prerequisites for 122 or 220, so you can take those anytime you want. It is helpful to get some dialogic experience if you're interested in being a facilitator, but that's not a prerequisite. There's gender-based, sexuality-based discussions. They're all topical. So every semester we have a bunch of topics that you can kind of have an ALA dialogue on. So we have a sexuality dialogue, we have a gender dialogue, we have a race dialogue, all types of things. And that depends on the students who are taking these courses and how many people are interested in that topic, as well as the facilitators and what social identities that they have. So it's not guaranteed that we'll offer a specific dialogue per semester. It's really based on who wants to take the course and who's going to facilitate the course.
Then how do students get placed in a specific section? So they apply stating which section they want to enroll in?
Yep, so there's a whole application process. If you go to our website, you can see that. You'll fill out various information based on your social identities, and then you'll also give preference to what type of dialogue you're interested in. So you range it from your top 6, and we try to give you something within your top 3 choices. So let's say you really want to have a dialogue about religion, sexual orientation, and then race. And so you rank that 1, 2, 3, and depending on other people, we'll try to get you into your first or second typically.
All right, any other questions from the students? Okay, seeing none. All right, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Optimize with Katie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Avila. I work for Optimize. I'm really excited to be with y'all today. I was a transfer student myself, and actually a good portion of our staff were also transfer students. So we love transfer students, and we're really excited to talk to you about today about Optimize. So I'm going to talk about, there's a lot of ways to get involved, and Optimize is very jargony, as you'll learn in about 3 minutes. But I'm going to talk about our Social Innovation Challenge, Amplify, and then different ways that you can get involved, whether that's through our programming or on our leadership team. So first and foremost, Optimize, what does that mean? We are a social innovation and entrepreneurship organization. Like I said, things are about to get really jargony. Basically what that means is that we help students make the world a better place. We work with students who are interested in just about any aspect of social justice, social change, social impact, and whatever that idea is that they have to make the world a better place, turn that into an actual project. So we start the year off by asking students, what would you change if you could change anything? And then sort of let the projects flow from there. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is our Social Innovation Challenge. The Social Innovation Challenge is really our flagship program. We work with students for about 5 months from October through February, turning that idea that I just talked about into an actual project. So ideas can be absolutely anything. You can have like a very specific plan that you're ready to do, or you can just generally care about something and want to make it better, like education or the environment, housing, so on and so forth. And so what we do is we go through a series of workshops. All of our workshops will be virtual this year, but we typically are in the LSA building right next to our Friendly Neighbors LSA recruitment on the first floor. But everything will be virtual, including our workshops. So we take you through a series of workshops, visioning, prototyping, storytelling, budgeting, everything you need to do to bring your project to life. And then you can pitch your project for up to $20,000 to work full-time over the summer. A lot of times in social innovation, social impact spaces, entrepreneurship, a lot of folks don't necessarily get that initial seed money, and there's also a lot of unpaid internships. And so the way that $20,000 breaks down is $4,000 living stipends for each of the team. That way you get paid to work on something you want to work on, rather than having to find an internship or a part-time job. And then up to $5,000 for your project funding itself. I've talked a lot about projects. Some of the examples are on our website, which I will drop in right here. And looks like we got a question, so I'm trying to read that at the same time. But these projects can really be about anything. So one of the projects from last year, Oshki, he turns plastic waste from the Great Lakes, it's a tongue twister, plastic waste from the Great Lakes into t-shirts, and is hoping to promote a more clean, sustainable Great Lakes. There's also a project from this most recent cohort that just finished up this summer called Detroit Prom Fund, and they help students who would otherwise not be able to purchase prom dresses, prom outfits, things like that, purchase prom outfits. And there's a group called Blueprints for Pangea, who was from one of our earlier cohorts, who after working in the Michigan hospital realized that there was a lot of waste and unused medical supplies at the hospital, because we have very strict standards of when things can get thrown out. And so they had a partnership with a hospital in Ghana and began donating unused medical supplies to this hospital in Ghana that spread to a couple other universities and other hospitals, so that medical supplies don't go to waste. So there's plenty to look at. I actually dropped that in there. But if you want to look at this year's teams that were funded, this is the link that I just put in there. If not, you can sort of pop around our website, which I linked up earlier. Throughout the challenge, we do have mentorship. We have mentors from around the Ann Arbor, Southeast Michigan area. Some of them have their own small businesses, nonprofits. Some of them are sort of peer mentors, folks who've been through a challenge before, who are either students at Michigan still or have recently graduated, who maybe had student orgs, businesses, nonprofits, and help you sort of work through the challenge. All of those projects that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of that 5 months were not projects. They were just ideas, and they blossomed into full projects. So we really help you sort of turn that idea into actual impact. You can work on these in teams or individual. At our first workshop, we typically have a space for people who are working individually to maybe meet up with other folks if they haven't had the chance to partner with people yet, but they'd like to. Or if you just want to work individually, we have plenty of teams that do that as well. You can also work with people who are not at the University of Michigan. They aren't able to get that $4,000 fellowship, but you can still apply for your fellowship and the actual $5,000 project grant. And there's one more question that rolled in, so I want to quickly answer that. There is no academic credit associated with these projects. This is a co-curricular space just for you. Okay, so that's a social innovation challenge. The first workshop is likely going to be like a big Zoom call. We're not 100% sure yet. We're still planning that right now. But then all of our other workshops will likely be smaller workshops and pods, and there'll be pod mixers. Pod is like a cohort, probably 5 to 8-ish students. And then they'll sort of mix and mingle with other pods to get to know other projects as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about the Social Innovation Challenge. Something I forgot to mention first is that we are a student-led organization. So there are 4 full-time staff that work for LSA full-time. And then there are about 50 students who work also for LSA, or they're also just part of our student org. So they volunteer their time and they lead all of these workshops. They put all of these things together. And it's a really special place. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of anywhere you get involved, is that it helps make the University of Michigan just a little bit smaller. But yeah, so we're a student-led organization. Students run this. They know all about social innovation entrepreneurship, much more than I do. And so they do an awesome job of leading the program. So on to Amplify. This is where I get really excited. We have a program specific for transfer students. So it's basically just to supplement any of the programming that we have going on in Optimize, any of our workshops, but it's also just a place to meet people, have fun, meet other transfer students, and learn about the university. So we have, you might have heard from them already, but we have folks from the Opportunity Hub who come out and help you curate your professional self. We have partners from all across campus that really just host workshops and stuff like that to help you sort of get acclimated to the University of Michigan as soon as possible. And then besides those, we also have some fun things like game nights and de-stress nights and things like that. And those are all led by a specific group of our leadership team who have received a $6,000 fellowship for the academic year. And they're all transfer students. So after you've been at the university for a year, or for a semester rather, pardon me, you can apply for this fellowship to lead out our transfer activities. So that's a little bit about Amplify. Amplify, some of the information is probably on our website. We're sort of in the midst of updating it, and our student staff are on a break until about August 10th. So if it isn't up there yet, it will be soon. We just finished up our first year of Amplify. We usually have dinner and we have amazing food every week, or every other week, but we won't have food this year for obvious reasons. But yeah, so that's Amplify. It's every other Monday at 6 p.m. We'll again have it on Zoom. It will all be, broadcasted and things like that. So That's a little bit about Amplify. And then the last thing to talk about are ways to get involved. So I've kind of briefly mentioned a couple of those. So you can either get involved in the Social Innovation Challenge. You can submit your application. You can actually submit it now, I believe, but you'll get an automated response saying, this isn't going to happen until October, so just pause until we hear that. And then, gosh, what else? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Our leadership team. So the student leaders that I was talking about earlier, a great way to get involved through that is through our organizing team. Those are the group of student volunteers who help plan our events. And then if you are really invested in Optimize and really enjoy it, you can apply for a student staff. And then the last piece is through our Mellon Fellowship, which is that group of transfer students who receive a fellowship to lead our transfer activities. I believe that's everything Optimize. And I think I got all those questions, but if there's anything else, I'm happy to answer them. Or you can check out our website. Again, I think I linked it up there. But yeah, thanks for coming out and welcome to Michigan.
All righty, thank you, Katie. So next up is the Prison Creative Arts Project. So Nora, you are set?
Great. Just before I start, I'm gonna put the link to the Prison Creative Arts Project website in the chat. PCAP is our acronym. You will quickly get used to remembering many, many acronyms at Michigan. So, all right, let me share my screen. I have a few slides. Go. Oops. All right. So the Prison Creative Arts Project is a curricular organization and a student organization at the University of Michigan. We are located in the residential college, but all of our programs are open to all LSA students and really all University of Michigan students and community members. PCAP has been around for 30 years now. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary. So we've been doing work with criminal legal system impacted people for a long time now. So I'll just say a little bit about PCAP's mission and then run through some of our different programs. One thing that is exciting about PCAP is there are lots of different ways to get involved, whether that's through coursework or one semester of volunteering, or we have a study abroad opportunity that I'll talk about. So it's a program that as you're at different points in your college career and you have different time commitments, you can kind of make work in different moments. So the Prison Creative Arts Project brings people who are impacted by the criminal legal system together with members of the U of M community for mutual learning and growth. And we do this by providing creative arts programming to every prison in the state of Michigan in some capacity. There are 26 prisons in Michigan and 26 state prisons and one federal facility, in addition to jails, detention centers, and youth facilities. You know, we have a big task in front of us. Michigan is one of the most heavily incarcerated states in the country. PCAP believes very deeply that creative expression is a human right. And that is our mission, is to create spaces where everyone can practice that human right, regardless of where they live or where they are incarcerated. Let's see. Just go to my next slide. Oops. So I mentioned PCAP is 30 years old this year. This is an image of our very first creative arts workshop that happened at Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility, which is just down the road in Ypsilanti. The PCAP began with this one workshop, and for many years it was still the only one, and we've now grown into several different components and grown much larger than the original program, all of which I will talk about. I'll say too that PCAP is often often appealing to students who have an interest in social justice, who have an interest in the arts, in performing, in writing. But our student membership really stretches beyond beyond majors or beyond programs that seem immediately relevant to social justice or the arts. We have students from all over campus, all different kinds of majors, all different kinds of future career paths. So just something to keep in mind as you are considering different programs to be a part of. So one of our core signature programs are our PCAP courses and our creative arts workshops, and they're very intimately related. So I've grouped them together here. So PCAP has two foundational courses. One is taught in the fall semester and one in the winter. Enrolling in a course, in a PCAP course, is, I think, one of the best ways to get oriented and plugged into PCAP. But unlike some other programs on campus, it is not a prerequisite to take a course in order to be a part of our organization. It's just a suggestion, since the courses provide a lot of support and guidance. So if you enroll in one of our PCAP courses, you will meet weekly with our faculty member, Ashley Lucas, who guides students in shared readings about the criminal legal system, about incarceration, about restorative justice and dialogue. But the main work of the class is doing a creative arts workshop inside a prison in Southeast Michigan. Our broader membership, students who are not enrolled in courses, are also welcome to do creative arts workshops, and that's where the close tie between these two components comes in. Often students who enroll in one of our courses continue to do creative arts workshops throughout their college career. This year, as you can imagine, we've been pivoting and doing a lot of work to reimagine our programs, and especially our workshops, in a remote way, since we are not allowed to enter prison for the foreseeable future due to COVID-19. So we'll still be using this structure of weekly creative arts workshops that include writing prompts, acting prompts, visual art prompts, but we'll be exchanging those with people inside through the mail. So there will still be that opportunity to have that kind of sustained contact and artistic creation with incarcerated people, but it will not be in person for the coming year. PCAP, like I mentioned at the start, is also a voluntary student organization, and our student arm, student org, does a lot of the work of supporting one another, supporting new workshop facilitators or other members as they learn about the criminal legal system, as they work on their workshop throughout the semester. PCAP, also the student organization, also does fundraisers. This past semester, our student org started a fundraiser to help people who are impacted by COVID-19, and has helped over 80 people. So it's a really kind of wonderful community to be a part of if PCAP is the organization for you. I'll also mention our study abroad opportunity, which also, as you can imagine, is on pause for the time being. Students who are enrolled in one of our foundational courses called Theater and Incarceration have the opportunity to spend 3 weeks in Brazil during the spring term, where they visit multiple Brazilian universities and theater programs that do theater inside prisons, impoverished neighborhoods, and hospitals in Brazil. So these are programs that have similarities to PCAP, but are not identical. And it's really an amazing opportunity to learn about another culture, about theater making in another culture, about the role of theater in social justice. And I'm hopeful that next summer or the summer after, we'll be able to resume our study abroad program. So our annual lit review and our podcast are two other programs that you can be involved with if you would like to be a part of PCAP. The Lit Review team receives and reads creative writing submissions that are submitted by incarcerated people throughout the state of Michigan. The team reads those submissions. They provide critical feedback to everyone who submits a piece of writing. And then at the end of the year, they publish a volume of creative writing. And every published writer gets a copy of the Lit Review sent back to him or her in prison. And we have readings of writers who have been, who've come home from prison, who've been published before out here in the free world. The Prison Creative Arts podcast is a project that a group of our students started 3 years ago, and it features interviews with people who have come home from prison, who are sharing their wisdom and what they've learned with other people who are coming home. So the re-entry community that PCAP is a part of, we call it the Linkage Project. So anyone who's been a part of PCAP inside prison, or even if they haven't been a part of PCAP inside prison, is welcome to join our PCAP re-entry community that does arts outings and also a community workshop. So they create theater together, do writing together on a weekly basis. And they have been pivoting towards Zoom this summer as they figure out how to do that community workshop in a remote way. So the final kind of signature program that I'll mention is our annual exhibition of art by Michigan prisoners. So this past year, we celebrated the 25th annual art exhibition. The annual exhibition shows art from every facility in the state. Our team of curators and students travel all throughout the state, meeting with artists and visiting every facility to select art for the show. All of the art in the show is for sale, and the proceeds go back to the artists themselves. The show is typically on view on North Campus for 2 weeks. This past year, we did have to postpone the exhibition, and are hoping to be able to show that exhibition sometime in the coming year. And for now, though, we have an online preview of that show on the PCAP website. Have here, oh, this is one of the pieces that I like to show. This is a piece by a woman in Women's Huron Valley who crocheted these 3 skulls completely just by looking at images of bones and skulls. And it's one of I think the most creative and talented artists we have. But finally here, I've just got some images of some of our curators and students on visits to facilities around the state where they are looking at pieces of art and talking to artists and providing feedback. And it was really just, it's always a wonderful opportunity to get to talk to those folks. So I think, as you can see, I'll just stop sharing now. There are lots of different opportunities to be a part of PCAP depending on what your artistic inclination is or what your time commitment is. And so I will stop there. I am just like, my eyes are gliding over to the chat. So someone has asked if PCAP has any political initiatives to push for prisons to become more constructive facilities. So the answer is yes and no. As a University of Michigan organization, we cannot take a public position on any piece of legislation, or we can't endorse political candidates. But that being said, we have many relationships with nonprofit organizations and community organizations that do have the ability to take those kinds of positions. And so kind of through those partnerships and support is how we kind of make our presence known in that space. The student organization also has sort of fewer restrictions in that way. And they are often involved in different political initiatives. And certainly right now in our current moment, when these questions are so at the forefront of everyone's mind, we are really committed to, remaining a space where those things can be discussed and brought up and really considered, even though as an organization, we kind of maintain a boundary between explicitly political work in our work. And someone also asked if they would still be able to participate even though their art skills are deplorable. The answer is yes, because I, even though I am the director, also have deplorable art skills. So I say that kind of as a joke, but also just to emphasize that PCAP really is a place for all skills and abilities and backgrounds. And I think that, you know, at least I have found in my time at PCAP that there are just spaces and opportunities for all different kinds of creators, whether you are a visual artist or a writer or just a visionary thinker, or you're someone who is really good at listening to people and making them feel included. Kind of the breadth of our programming allows for or requires a whole wide range of abilities and perspectives. So I'm happy to take more questions or talk more about PCAP. As you can tell, we're a big organization with lots of pieces to talk about.
So we do have one question posted into the Q&A. It's about the joining with partnerships with prison advocacy groups. So you sort of covered that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked about how COVID has affected your work. So you're still able to interact with the incarcerated population?
To a degree.
Extent?
So the Michigan Department of Corrections ended all in-person visitation on March 13th. And it was a real challenge for our members and for incarcerated participants because it really just abruptly stopped all of our workshops that have been happening during the winter semester. And normally workshops are able to have a final performance, whether that is, you know, performing a piece of theater that they've written or having a reading of pieces that, you know, creative writing people have written. So we weren't able to have that kind of celebration and closure, which was really sad for our workshops. The Michigan Department of Corrections has not reinstated in-person visitation. And I think they're not likely to do so anytime soon. So what we have been doing is thinking about ways that we could use physical mail to still support artists and support writers and other creators inside. So that's what we'll be doing in the coming year. Obviously, there are some downsides to that. It's not ideal to not be able to speak to each other, to be in the same space. It makes some of our practices like theater and music much, much more challenging. On the other hand, it allows us to do some programming at prisons that are normally too far away for us to do programs at. So typically, just because of distance and time, all of our workshops happen in Southeast Michigan. We occasionally will do a workshop up in Saginaw, but driving more than an hour one way is challenging, obviously. But this year, since we'll be using the mail, we're going to experiment with doing some programs further away. So there'll be some opportunities there too, but it has been a real challenge.
Okay, any other questions from the students? All right, seeing none. So can all the presenters turn their video back on so that we can, I guess, say goodbye to you all in person? But I will just say that for the incoming students, getting involved in any of these programs will, and you obviously wouldn't be doing it because it sort of made you more marketable when you're going out into the real world and stuff like that. But students a lot of times will ask, what can I do to sort of get real world experience? And they think that has to be some sort of business related activity. I'll just say from my experience, my career working with undergraduates, doing any of these programs, getting involved in any of them, you'll get much more out of them just in terms of your own personal growth, the skills that you'll develop, and making the world a better place than you would out of anything else you would ever do at the university. And so, you know, I know that all these programs are really impressive and I don't necessarily have to talk them up to all of you who just watch them present, but I will say sort of in that realm, they can be something that can really change your experience at the University of Michigan. So I highly recommend that you get involved in, I guess, all of them. Although one of the students said only 2 years. He wishes he could do them all. So, but you might as well give it a shot if you're interested in them all. So, all right. So thanks to all the presenters. Students, if you have any questions, they've been sharing their contact information, their websites, things of that sort. But if you have any questions, any difficulty connecting with anybody, just shoot us an email at the Transfer Student Center or me, and we'll be able to connect you with whoever you'd like. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. Everybody have what is today, Wednesday? Good sort of end of the week and weekend. And for the students, we do have, sorry, I never know in these things, but for the students, we do have a few more of these coming up. We're sort of pivoting to faculty panels. And so we have 3 of them coming up in the next 3 weeks. And their first week is science faculty, and then we have humanities faculty, and then a panel of social science faculty for the rest of the summer. All right. Okay. Take care, everybody, and hope to see you in the fall.